In this video, we're going to be talking about the alerting capabilities of SQL Diagnostic Manager. Now, by default, when you're setting up your email notifications or alerts with Diagnostic Manager, there are only two rules that are usually set up by default: this SQL Diagnostic Manager service status rule and the SCOM default rule. So if you would like Diagnostic Manager to react in some form or fashion when something or when some SQL instance goes into a warning or a critical condition, you need to configure it in this location in Alert Actions and Responses. To get there, you just go to the top right hand corner to the Tools drop down and select Alert Actions and Responses, and then you can create as many alert rules as you deem necessary. Now, I've already configured my alert rules, and then I've got some examples here that we'll go through. But just as a side note, like I said, there are two default rules that are listed. Now, before we get into some of the options that I think are important when you're configuring alerts, let's cover some of the capabilities within Diagnostic Manager. So you don't have to just send out an email notification. If you'd like to be a little bit more proactive, you have a lot of different options that are available. So, when a server has a warning or a critical condition, you have the ability to run a T-SQL script against the instance. You can run a job against the instance. You can push that information or alert to ServiceNow if that's something you'd like to do, or you can forward events or alerts to SCOM. So those are also options available. If you'd like to run an executable or a batch file, that's a configurable option as well. And then probably the most powerful option here is that you have the ability to run a PowerShell command in reaction to any alert that is generated. But just to close this out, you can also fire off traps, push information to the event log. These are sort of legacy items, in my opinion. And then you can also turn on different components within Diagnostic Manager and then turn them back off as needed. So we can turn on query waits, turn on query monitor if you're trying to find your long-running queries or your high-impact queries. You can also turn on your analysis or prescriptive analysis component, which means when certain criteria is met, Diagnostic Manager will try to give you recommendations for things that you can do differently to make your SQL environment run more effectively. So these are all the options that are available to you. Let's switch over to my alert rules. And like I said, there's only two rules by default. So everything else that you're seeing here, I created. So to create a rule, you just hit add. You go through and give the rule a name, and then you go through step 1, 2, and 3 and specify the conditions and actions that you would like to have Diagnostic Manager execute when problems occur. Just as a side note, let's start off with my work hours email notification. I'm just going to go through some of the options I think are important. So I'm going to hit edit. The big thing to note here is that when you're setting up your alerts, you have the option to set up alerts for individual servers or groups of servers. You have the option to set up alerts based on a specific metric or group of metrics. You can also set up your alerts so that you're only generating an email notification when a status changes, i.e. when you go from a warning condition to a critical condition or a critical condition to a warning condition. You can set Diagnostic Manager to react to only those types of scenarios. Above and beyond that, and then probably important things that a lot of times are overlooked, you also have the ability to set up your alerts based on ranks. And if you go back to the metrics that you're monitoring in the alerts area or configuring alerts area, you'll notice that all your metrics have been given a rank based on what we think is more severe or less severe. And then also, you can also set up an automatic escalation with this rule where metric severity is unchanged for a specific period of time. This allows you to react. Let's say you've got sent out email alerts because there's a blocking problem or a SQL server is offline, and you sent that to your first level IT or help desk staff, and then you want to set up another alert that says if a server stays in a critical condition for more than an hour, to send another email notification to upper management. Well, that option is available here. Now, as far as how you react, that's in the actions section over here. Any of those action providers that we talked about can be turned on. If you want to have multiple action providers, like for example, you want to have an alert generate an email notification to your team, but also post information to the event log, and at the same time maybe run an analysis to give you recommendations for things that you can do differently. Those are options that are available in step 2. And then in step 3, this is where we fine tune the rules. So for example, this is an email notification during work hours. If I want to only get email notifications on certain metrics, I just click on the list of metrics over here and then scroll through and pick whatever metric I want to have added to this alert. Another thing that we can do, and I'm just going to skip out of this email notification alert. Another thing we can do is be a little bit more proactive. If you want to run a script or run a job or a PowerShell command, all those are options that are viable. So let me give you an example of that. Let's say I had blocking in my environment. What I can do is create a rule that applies to a group or an individual server. In this case, I created a group that applied to QA. Any server that is in the QA group, which is listed here, if it has blocking, I'll run this T-SQL script to kill the lead blocker and resolve the issue. There are a lot of different options as far as how you react. Probably the most important thing I wanted to highlight is that the where metric severity changed rule right here. A lot of times, if you don't want to be inundated with email notifications, this is a good option to have turned on. Thanks for listening.